As the darkness encroached, an unexpected thought flashed through her mind: what if she turned the villagers' whispers into her strength? Amaka could stand tall, confront each rumor with courage, but could she withstand the burden of their judgment? Late one night, in the quiet solitude of her room, she made a decision. She would confront the rumors head-on and seek out those who had once been her allies. She needed to speak her truth, to shed the chains of despair binding her. But just as hope flickered in her heart, another wave of anxiety washed over her. What if Uche never returned? What if Chinaelo continued to let jealousy drive a wedge between them? The thought sent chills down her spine, heightening her desperation. As she stared into the mirror, Amaka saw a flicker of the strong woman she used to be. Yet, beneath that reflection lay a brewing storm of conflict and fear. The question lingered in the air: would she find the strength to unravel the web of lies and reclaim her life, or would she be consumed by the very darkness she sought to escape? As the darkness encroached, an unexpected thought flashed through her mind: what if she turned the villagers' whispers into her strength? Amaka could stand tall, confront each rumor with courage, but could she withstand the burden of their judgment? Late one night, in the quiet solitude of her room, she made a decision. She would confront the rumors head-on and seek out those who had once been her allies. She needed to speak her truth, to shed the chains of despair binding her. But just as hope flickered in her heart, another wave of anxiety washed over her. What if Uche never returned? What if Chinaelo continued to let jealousy drive a wedge between them? The thought sent chills down her spine, heightening her desperation. As she stared into the mirror, Amaka saw a flicker of the strong woman she used to be. Yet, beneath that reflection lay a brewing storm of conflict and fear. The question lingered in the air: would she find the strength to unravel the web of lies and reclaim her life, or would she be consumed by the very darkness she sought to escape? The time for action was approaching, and with it, the potential for both redemption and ruin. Desperation gnawed at Chinaelo as she paced her dimly lit room, her thoughts swirling with jealousy and fear of losing Uche. To solid Chinaelo her hold on him, she devised a sinister plan. With a heavy heart and a darker intent, she sought out a woman known for her penchant for gossip, offering her a pouch of coins in exchange for lies that would tarnish Amaka's name. The woman, eager for easy gold, agreed, spinning tales of Amaka's supposed moral failings that dripped with malice. "She's not who you think," she whispered to anyone who would listen, her voice slithering through the village like poison. Each lie wove a tighter web, ensnaring Uche in a growing mistrust of Amaka. Meanwhile, Amaka remained blissfully unaware of the trap closing around her. With each passing day, she held on to hope for Uche's return, believing their love could overcome the darkness. Little did she know, the very foundation of that love was crumbling beneath a tide of deceit. As Chinaelo reveled in her deceit, the tension mounted. What would happen when Uche finally confronted Amaka with the lies? Would Amaka's hope turn to despair, or could she rise to confront the storm brewing against her? In that fragile moment, the stakes escalated, and the shadows deepened, threatening to engulf them all. The night air was thick with music and laughter as villagers gathered for the festival, but for Uche, every sound felt like a distant echo. Driven by the woman's insidious whispers, he had come to confront Amaka, convinced of her unworthiness. His heart raced, caught between love and the poison of doubt that had seeped into his mind. As he spotted Amaka, her laughter ringing like a sweet melody, the joy around him felt like a mockery. The warmth in her eyes turned cold in his perception, twisted by the lies he had swallowed. He approached her, his chest tight with a mixture of anger and sorrow. "Amaka," he called, his voice cutting through the merriment like a knife. She turned, surprise flickering across her face, but Uche saw only the facade of innocence. "What is it, Uche?" she asked, her voice gentle, unaware of the storm brewing within him. "Why do you pretend to be someone you're not?" he demanded, heartless in his tone. "Everyone says you've been unfaithful." Amaka's heart dropped, her breath hitching as his words crashed over her. "That's not true. You have to believe me." But desperation filled her voice as she grasped for any semblance of hope. Uche shook his head, disappointment etched on his face. I can't trust you anymore. You've betrayed me. Each word was a dagger, and Amaka felt herself crumbling, the ground shifting beneath her. In that dreadful moment, Uche turned away, leaving Amaka frozen in place, her heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. The laughter around her faded into silence, replaced by a suffocating sense of loss. She reached out, wanting to explain, to tell him about the lies, but he was already swallowed by the crowd. The festival lights blurred through her tears, illuminating the depth of her despair. Amaka knew she had to fight back against the treachery surrounding her, but how could she when the man she loved now saw her as the enemy? As she stood there, enveloped in the chilling realization that she was alone, the threads of the web began to unravel further. If she didn't act quickly, the darkness would not only destroy her but would also sever the last remaining ties with Uche. Would she be able to reclaim her truth before it was too late, or would her heart forever bear the weight of his betrayal? That night, Amaka lay in bed, engulfed in despair. The weight of betrayal pressed down on her chest, suffocating her spirit. As she tossed and turned, the effect of Chizuba's charm intensified, swirling around her like a dark mist. Her stomach churned, and a fever gripped her, drawing beads of sweat across her forehead. Chukwuemeka, sensing something was gravely wrong, rushed into her room. Panic etched across his face as he saw her pale, trembling form. "Amaka," he cried, his heart racing. "What's happening to you?" In her delirium, Amaka struggled to form words, her mind a fog of confusion and pain. "It's not what it seems, Father," she gasped, but the darkness closed in, blurring her thoughts. Alarmed by her condition, Chukwuemeka hurried to the healer, desperation fueling his steps. He arrived breathless, his heart pounding as he implored her for help. "You must come quickly. Amaka is in trouble, and I fear for her life." The healer's expression turned grave as she followed him back. "The charm has a deeper power than you realize," she warned, urgency lacing her words. "If we don't act fast, the darkness could consume her entirely." As they rushed to Amaka's side, Chukwuemeka felt the chilling truth settle in his bones. Time was running out. What sinister force had taken hold of his daughter, and would they uncover the source before it was too late? The night loomed heavy with uncertainty, the shadows whispering secrets that could unravel everything. The healer burst into Amaka's room, her eyes narrowing as she took in the scene. A palpable tension filled the air, thick with dark energies that twisted around Amaka like a shroud. "What has happened here?" she demanded, her voice firm yet laced with urgency. Chukwuemeka, trembling with fear, explained the rumors and Amaka's subsequent decline. The healer's expression darkened. "Chizuba's jealousy has unleashed a curse upon this family," she concluded, the weight of her words heavy in the room. "The truth must come to light, or Amaka will be lost." As she knelt beside Amaka, the healer placed her hands over her, summoning her energy to combat the curse. "I need to know everything," she urged. "Every secret, every betrayal. Only then can I break the hold of this darkness." Amaka, her heart pounding, struggled to voice the betrayal she had suffered at Chinaelo's hands and Chizuba's manipulations. But a flicker of doubt remained. Could she truly expose her family's wounds? Just as she found her voice, a shadow passed through the doorway. Chinaelo stood there, eyes wide with fear. "What are you doing here?" Amaka demanded, her voice a mix of anger and hurt. The sisters locked eyes, the tension palpable. In that moment, Chinaelo's mask of jealousy began to crack, revealing the turmoil beneath. The healer sensed the critical moment unfolding. "Chinaelo, you two are entwined in this curse. Acknowledge your part in the deceit, and healing can begin for all of you." As the room fell silent, the sisters faced each other, the weight of their shared past pressing down on them. Would they confront the painful truth together, or would the web of lies continue to suffocate them all? The outcome hung precariously in the balance, and the dark night promised either reconciliation or ruin. The healer turned sharply, her eyes narrowing as she confronted Chizuba, who lingered in the shadows of the doorway. "You hold the key to this turmoil," she stated, her voice slicing through the tension. Chizuba's face turned ashen, the weight of the healer's accusation crashing down upon her like a tidal wave. "What are you talking about?" Chizuba stammered, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her. The healer stepped closer, her gaze unyielding. Your jealousy has unleashed chaos upon this family. You must acknowledge your role in this darkness. Silence enveloped the room, heavy and oppressive. Chinaelo, standing to the side, felt the gravity of the moment weighing down on her. Overwhelmed by guilt, she could no longer contain her anguish. I've done terrible things, she confessed, her voice breaking as tears streamed down her cheeks. I spread lies about Amaka, thinking it would keep Uche by my side. Amaka's eyes widened in disbelief, the betrayal piercing deeper than ever before. You did this, she gasped, her heart pounding. Chinaelo, this isn't just about you, the healer interjected, urgency in her tone. The cycle of deceit must end. Speak your truth, and perhaps healing can begin. With the room hanging in a fragile balance, Chinaelo took a shaky breath. I was so afraid of losing everything. I never meant for it to go this far. Her confession hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. As Chizuba stood frozen, the darkness of her own actions loomed large, threatening to consume them all. Would she finally admit her part in this tangled web? The atmosphere crackled with tension, and the outcome remained uncertain, reconciliation or irrevocable ruin. The sisters stood at the edge of a precipice, and only the truth could guide them back. As Chinaelo stood trembling, the weight of her sins bore down on her like an anchor. I didn't want to hurt you, Amaka, she cried, her voice raw with emotion. But I was terrified of losing Uche, I thought the lies would protect me. The healer placed a steadying hand on Chinaelo's shoulder. You must purge the darkness within you. Only then can healing begin. Her words hung in the air, charged with urgency. Amaka watched, heart pounding, as Chinaelo wrestled with her guilt. A flicker of compassion sparked within Amaka despite the pain. Chinaelo, I never wanted this, she whispered, stepping closer. We were sisters. We should have lifted each other up. Uche, standing at the threshold, listened in shock, realization dawning upon him. The depth of Chinaelo's betrayal shattered his previous convictions. He had believed Amaka was at fault, but now he saw the true nature of her heart, filled with kindness even in the face of betrayal. As Chinaelo broke down, tears streaming down her face, the room filled with a tense silence. I'm so sorry, Amaka, she sobbed. I thought I could make you disappear from his heart. Amaka's resolve strengthened. We need to face this together, Chinaelo. It's the only way we can heal. The healer nodded in agreement, her gaze steady. Truth and forgiveness can break the chains of deceit. But first, you must confront the darkness inside you, Chinaelo. With the weight of their shared history hanging in the air, the sisters stood at a crossroads. Would they find the courage to reconcile, or would the bitterness continue to poison their bond? The tension crackled as they faced a reckoning that could alter the course of their lives forever. The room was charged with anticipation, eyes fixed on Chizuba, who stood trembling at the threshold. The weight of the moment pressed down upon her, the atmosphere thick with unspoken accusations. You need to confess, Chizuba, the healer urged, her voice steady yet compassionate. Chizuba's breath quickened, a storm of emotions swelling within her. For too long, envy had festered in her heart, leading her to manipulate those she claimed to love. I didn't want to lose my place, she finally stammered, her voice breaking. I thought I could control everything, that it would protect us all. As she spoke, the burden of her deceit began to lift. I spread lies about Amaka, believing it would secure my family's legacy. But all it did was tear us apart. Tears streamed down her face, each drop a testament to her guilt. The atmosphere shifted palpably, a collective sigh escaping the others as the truth hung heavy in the air. The healer nodded, sensing the shift toward healing. Honesty is the first step toward reconciliation, she said softly. With her confession, the path forward became clearer. Chinaelo, Amaka, we must face the darkness together, Chizuba continued, vulnerability seeping into her tone. Uche, still processing the revelations, stepped forward. I had no idea. I let doubt guide my heart. His voice quivered, filled with regret as he looked at Amaka. In that pivotal moment, the healer prepared to mend the fractured bonds. Now, we can heal, she proclaimed, her hands poised to invoke the cleansing energy needed to dispel the curse. The stakes had never been higher. Would they embrace this newfound honesty and rise from the ashes of their mistakes, or would lingering doubts shatter their fragile unity once more? The room pulsed with tension, teetering on the edge of transformation or turmoil. The air in the room vibrated with tension as the healer prepared for the ritual, her presence commanding yet serene. Candles flickered, casting shadows that danced across the walls, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation. Amaka stood to one side, her heart torn between anger and empathy as she watched Chinaelo, whose guilt had left her visibly shaken. "Close your eyes, Chinaelo," the healer instructed, her voice a soothing balm amidst the storm of emotions. "Breathe deeply and focus on releasing the darkness within you." Chinaelo nodded, trembling as she clutched the small vial of potion, the liquid shimmering ominously. As she raised it to her lips, Amaka felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Memories of their childhood together flooded her mind, laughter, shared secrets, but now tainted by betrayal. With a resolute gulp, Chinaelo drank, the taste bitter and metallic. Almost instantly, a shudder ran through her body, and she gasped as the swell in her stomach began to recede. "It's working," she cried, but the healer remained focused, urging her to confront the shadows that lingered. Suddenly, a deep, haunting scream echoed through the room. It wasn't Chinaelo, it was Chizuba, her face twisted in horror. "What have you done?" she shrieked, her eyes wide as she realized the ritual was unraveling darker truths. The healer, unfazed, urged Chinaelo to continue. "Embrace your pain, Chinaelo. Only then can you be free." As Chinaelo struggled against the tide of her emotions, Amaka felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Could this ritual truly cleanse the poison that had seeped into their lives? But with Chizuba's sudden outburst, the tension escalated, and Amaka wondered if the truth would be as liberating as they hoped, or if it would further entangle them in a web of despair. The stakes had never been higher, and the path to healing lay perilously close to the edge of chaos. As the last remnants of darkness dissipated, the room felt lighter, almost ethereal. Chinaelo, shaken yet resolute, turned toward Amaka, her heart racing. The healing ritual had stripped away her jealousy, leaving behind a raw vulnerability she had never known. "Amaka," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "I am so sorry for everything. I've hurt you in ways I can never take back." Amaka's heart ached at the sight of her sister, transformed yet fragile. Memories of their shared laughter mingled with the pain of betrayal, creating a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. "You made choices that wounded us both," she replied, her voice steadied despite the turmoil inside. "But I want to understand. I want us to heal." Taking a deep breath, Chinaelo stepped closer, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Please, forgive me. I was consumed by fear and envy. I never wanted to lose you." In that moment, Amaka felt the walls around her heart begin to crumble. The anger that had festered for so long gave way to compassion. She reached out, enveloping Chinaelo in a warm embrace. "We can find a new path together," she murmured, her heart swelling with hope. "But you must be honest with me from now on." Just then, Chizuba interrupted, her voice thick with regret. "I too must make amends," she confessed, stepping forward. "My jealousy clouded my judgment, and I see now how my actions have torn you apart." Amaka's eyes widened, but Chinaelo's grip tightened around her. "It's okay," she said softly. "We are all learning to face our truths." As they stood together, a fragile unity began to form, but the air was still heavy with uncertainty. Would they be able to trust one another again? The path to redemption was fraught with challenges, and shadows lingered in the corners of their hearts. As the sisters exchanged glances, each understood that their journey was just beginning, and only time would reveal whether forgiveness would be enough to mend what had been broken. As the sisters embraced, a wave of warmth and hope filled the room. Uche stood at a distance, his heart heavy with conflicting emotions. He had watched the sisters reconcile, each moment stirring a mix of admiration and guilt within him. Doubts that once clouded his heart began to dissipate, replaced by a profound realization of Amaka's unwavering spirit. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, his pulse quickening. "Amaka," he called softly, breaking the tender moment between the sisters. Her gaze turned to him, a mixture of surprise and caution in her eyes. "I owe you an apology," he continued, voice steady yet filled with urgency. "I doubted you when I should have believed in your kindness and strength. I let lies cloud my judgment." Amoka's heart raced as his words sank in. Memories of their laughter and shared dreams flooded back, igniting a spark of hope within her. "Uche, I..." But before she could finish, Uche took another step closer, his expression earnest. "I love you, Amaka. I've realized that true beauty lies not in appearances or rumors, but in loyalty and compassion. You have always embodied those qualities, and I was blind not to see it." The air crackled with tension as Amaka's breath caught in her throat. Uche's sincerity washed over her like a bomb, erasing the bitterness that had lingered. In that moment, she felt a flicker of the love they once shared, rekindled by the honesty between them. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, a sudden noise echoed from outside, a shout pierced the stillness. Both sisters turned, eyes wide with fear. What was that? Chinaelo exclaimed, her earlier resolve faltering. Uche's brow furrowed, sensing the tension shift. "Stay close," he urged, protective instincts kicking in. As they braced themselves for whatever lay ahead, Amaka felt her heart race, not just from Uche's declaration, but from the uncertainty of the world outside. Would their love withstand the challenges looming just beyond the door? With shadows threatening to encroach once more, they stood at a precipice, ready to face the unknown together. As the sun rose over the village, casting a golden hue on the preparations, Amaka and Uche stood at the center of their blossoming love. The air buzzed with excitement as villagers decorated the space, but amidst the joyous atmosphere, Chinaelo lingered in the shadows, grappling with her own feelings. She watched her sister and Uche, a pang of envy mixing with pride swelling in her chest. Though she was single and faced the reality of her past mistakes, Chinaelo vowed to change. "I will seek redemption," she whispered to herself, determination igniting her spirit. But how could she atone for the pain she had caused? As the wedding day approached, whispers of her past echoed in her mind, and her heart felt heavy. The fear of being left behind loomed over her like a storm cloud. Just as she turned to leave, a familiar face appeared, an old friend from her childhood, who had always believed in her potential. "Are you ready to embrace a new chapter?" he asked gently. If only it were that simple, Chinaelo sighed, the weight of her guilt pressing down on her. But his encouraging smile ignited a flicker of hope. "You have the power to shape your future," he urged. Meanwhile, Amaka and Uche, caught up in the moment, prepared to leave the village for a new life abroad, unaware of the challenges that awaited them. As they exchanged vows under the vibrant arch of flowers, the bond with Chinaelo hung heavily in the air, a reminder of the past and the hope for healing. As the couple shared their first kiss as husband and wife, a sudden gust of wind rustled through the trees, and Chinaelo felt an inexplicable pull toward her sister. In that moment, she realized that love, when nurtured, could conquer even the deepest wounds. With resolve in her heart, Chinaelo made a promise to herself: she would rebuild her life, not just for her own sake but to honor the bond she still shared with Amaka and Uche. As the celebration erupted around her, she knew this was just the beginning. The future was uncertain, but she was ready to face it head-on, no longer shrouded in the darkness of her past. The dawn of a new day was upon them all, and the path ahead shimmered with possibility, filled with the promise of healing, forgiveness, and love.